And then I welcome you to this meeting today, to this life today. And I'm grateful for this opportunity to meet and talk. And I'm happy to answer your questions. I'm going to say a few things that I said yesterday already about storytelling when it comes to health, because I think it is one of the key elements for us to really, because the way currently we see the world, we've been taught to see the world, the way the medical system works is often with a diagnosis that seems unchangeable. And so if we change the storylines, the example that I used yesterday was when I started to have seizures and was diagnosed with epilepsy, they were looking for a cause. And so my mom I was born in a complicated way. I didn't have enough air and things like that. And so they said that probably because of my birth, there was a brain damage which has now caused the epilepsy. And when you believe that story and when you live with that story, then it's kind of unchangeable because it feels like something happened in the past and this caused that. And so for the rest of my life, I have to live with that. For me, the story was always a different one. The story was that I needed that complicated birth in order to have kind of like a near death experience at birth so that I remember other lifetimes, the universe, the connection to it all, God, and to live a life in between the worlds and to become the priestess that I am now, who can help other people connect to the unseen as well. And so for me, this was a gift, but it came with an energy overload that I had to learn to integrate, which is how what I now say is like I healed myself from epilepsy. I learned to integrate the energy that I was feeling and that I didn't know how to integrate as a teenager, but that I can integrate now in a way that doesn't have to burst out of me through epileptic seizures. And something that came up after the talk yesterday was that it's really important to see that healing takes time, because if you want to not just fix something superficially, you have to look for the cause. And you as a person have to grow into the maturity of understanding every single part of yourself. So it's easy to think, because that is how the world is built, and the message that we often receive is that if we have a problem, we're not good enough yet. But that is never true. Like, every problem is there to bring us back to ourselves, because when we resolve it, we understand a part about ourselves and the world. So everything we experience is a teacher. And if we don't see it as a problem, but as a teacher, then we can actually start resolving it. So this is my little input and my invitation to see where you have stories that make it difficult for you to change the current situation, and to think about how you can change these stories so that they feel differently and so that you feel empowered to actually be able to change them. So I'm looking at the comments and it's always a bit time-lapsed, so I'm sorry for the back and forth. But Patricia says exactly, being complex or non-typical is not the same as a body of pain. Yes, that is true. Is there anyone here who has a question or who would like me to talk about something specific? Then I will talk about some of the questions that I've received earlier. One of them being, my hands and fingers get numb too quickly, and trying to type with peeps to help heal me or them or both proves practically impossible. I'm of a certain age and there are too many devices, hollow information, and AI. We all need help, but it's not happening. And I think this is like a very interesting, it's not really a question, I guess, but a statement, because especially when we look at that from the storytelling aspect, we can see that there are many stories that come to light in the statement. My hands and fingers get numb too quickly. When I look at that, like we, each one of us is the creatrix of their reality. We create our experience. This world is built in a way that we get exactly what we think and experience that. So if I notice in myself that I feel like, and I have that obviously as well, like for me, I had a chronic ear infection all my life. So when the wind was blowing from a certain direction, I was always scared that I would get an ear infection and I would always have to wear a hat. I still do because of, like these things run deep. And so but I know now that when I think like, oh, the wind is blowing, I need to be careful or I will get an ear infection, to actually change my thinking into, oh no, this wind will not affect me because I create my reality. And the more I step into that, the more I can change that. So to this person, I would suggest first to say, instead of my hands and fingers get numb too quickly trying to type, to say, every day my hands and fingers feel less numb. Or the more I type, the less numb my fingers feel, or something that feels right for them. I shared about that in the live a month ago. I had a rash in my finger, on my hands, and I wanted to try this method to see if it really works without doing anything else, like without using any creams, without using any deeper healing work, basically, but just to say to my hand, you are getting better and better. Every time I looked at it, instead of going into fear and thinking it's going to get worse, to say, I see you healing, even when I didn't, until I actually did. So I've tried this and this actually works. So we can help ourselves by changing these kinds of stories. My hands are not getting numb, but the most important part is to not focus on the numb, but to actually say something else that you want to create. So my hand is healthy, my hands feel fine, I can do whatever I wish to do. The same goes for age. Age is just an illusion and what we make of it. We have to decide if we want to go with it. And again, this shows us something about the stories we tell collectively, because we think that certain things happen at a certain age because we all tell the same stories. And so we see evidence for this creation with every person that we speak to. I was fortunate enough to have lived in different settings. I was born in Germany, raised in Germany. I went to school in the US for a while. I lived in Ukraine for 2 years with Roma gypsy communities, which was a completely different life from everything that I had known until then. And especially like living and being and hanging out with the women there, like the stories I heard about pregnancy and childbirth in Germany, morning sickness, and all these things didn't exist there. And that really made me think, because, it really showed me how much these stories affect our experience. If something isn't in the storyline, then it doesn't happen in a way. And so we have the power to use this understanding and knowledge to change the reality and to actually start creating the reality that we want to experience. And we also have the power of focus. Like, there are too many devices, hollow information, and AI. I see that. That's true. But I can choose to focus on that. I choose to focus on the wonderful opportunities the internet gives me to connect to other people. The wonderful opportunity I have because of the internet to learn about what other people are doing, how other people are doing things. And I see it as my own responsibility to look out for the information and to find it and to connect to it. But I know that I first have to say, I believe the right information for me is out there in order for me to be able to see it and to experience it. So this is something that comes back to us. Like, it's our responsibility to live our lives. It's our responsibility to understand how to live our lives and to learn how to live our lives. And this is why I like working with the Wheel of Colors so much, because it gives us a guideline. It has 13 fields, 13 colors, and each field and each color guide us exactly to all the qualities that we need to activate in ourselves to become fully responsible, fully powerful, fully creative beings that can consciously create their reality, and with that also experience deep rooted healing on a holistic level that is all encompassing because it radiates outwards and heals from within, and is not just fixing superficially. Yes, encouraging storytelling instead of limiting ones. So I hope this helps, like, to get an understanding of what is possible for us. And I had another question from Lisa. Hello, I would like to communicate with my hormones to help my body sleep the 2 weeks before my bleed. I would also like to loosen the hard upper traps atop my shoulders and neck. I feel those too. Finally, I would love to communicate and heal my eyes and vision and repair my teeth and gums. I'm very excited to join and learn. Awesome. So I think this shows something very beautiful as well, because the point when we are at a certain point in our lives where we notice like all the things are not actually as good as they once were, and we notice we have this and we have that, and it is so difficult to try to do it all at once. And so with that, I would really invite all of us to connect to the love as a first step, and to not think that anything is wrong with us or that we did anything wrong for having problems now, because we did the best we could every single day of our lives. And we can be so grateful and thankful to ourselves for doing our best every single day of our lives, and to let go of all the judgment, to let go of all the criticism, and to really arrive in the state. And like, especially as women with period, like, I, from like my 20s to my late 30s, I would not be able to do anything other than like like, I had so much pain I couldn't move for a day. And that actually changed in one day by just hearing somebody say, maybe you need to breathe differently. And then I realized, oh my God, like, I'm in so much fear of the pain arriving that I'm not even breathing because I'm just anticipating this pain. And the moment I started to, again, like, overcome the fear and to just breathe into the pain, it slowly started to disappear. And I don't like, I have moments now, but like, whenever I notice that I have pain moments, I'm breathing into them, I'm accepting them, I'm lovingly saying hello to them, and then they move away. And I also talked about that with someone a few days ago, and it's like, so often we want the pain to just go away, and that is really understandable because it can be annoying, and we had other plans and all of these things. But when I communicate with my body, I always say, like, because the body has so much intelligence and it needs to do certain things. And if we don't want them because they're inconvenient for us, that doesn't mean that they're not necessary and that it's not us that actually needs to slow down. So I always say to my body, like, please do what you have to do. Tell me what I need to do to contribute to that. Do it in the least painful way possible, but I trust you that you have your best interest in mind and that you are directed towards healing, and to start having a loving conversation with your body, because like, the blood needs to go out, the skin needs to be removed, there are things that are happening and they need to happen and they're good for me. So acceptance, and then meeting that with love, I think, will automatically do a lot to help reduce the pain. And again, it's a story, like, the experience of, I don't sleep for 2 weeks before I bleed, is like, can be changed into, I'm starting to sleep more even though I'm about to bleed. Or like whatever you feel is right for you and works well for you. You have to like figure that out a bit for yourself, like what resonates with you specifically. And yeah, relaxing, no? Like upper traps, body relaxing, meditation, movement, and to really allow yourself to center in your heart and to feel yourself and to not try to fix everything at once, I think really is key for a lot of us. And then we have Cheryl talking to our liver and helping it to let go and detoxify more. I often do a meditation in bed where I check in with my body and where I connect to all parts of my body. Like half the time, I don't even get much past my feet if I start there. So I started to start at random body parts so that they all get attention every once in a while. But like talk to your liver and talk to your whole system and also talk to yourself and ask yourself why you feel like you need more detoxing and what it is in your life maybe that you're experiencing, because detoxing is not just from chemical things that we take in through food, it is also from the environment and the toxic words that we maybe say to ourselves and that we hear from other people. And so I think like when I hear detoxing, I always think the first thing is like kindness, loving kindness to yourself. Like don't focus so much on getting the things out. Also focus on filling everything with love. That's what I feel and think is important. So I have a message here. I'm trying to make sense of something that happened in our town last year. A couple of 18-year-olds died in a car accident. It's all everyone talked about. Within around 2 weeks, there were another two accidents with young people dying. It felt like we somehow brought this on as that is all we focused on. Is it possible that group energy can also bring on negative experiences? So this is a very interesting question. And we also talked about that a little bit in the last ones. I believe, I know, I feel that every soul has a plan and that we have soul contracts and that we choose when we enter this life and when we end this life. And from looking at this from a human perspective can be difficult because we want our children to live long lives. We also touched a little bit about on that yesterday. Like what would really help us as humanity in general is to overcome the fear of death or to think that death is a bad thing. And so that is what I feel like has happened in that town as well. Like then everybody, like people are very happy to be distracted from themselves. So if something negative happens, then everybody can focus on that and then we don't have to focus on ourselves. So, or perceivingly negative, because this is something that you might have to do. Is like, what are the positive outcomes that came from that? Like, have there been changes in the way you talk to young people or that they're integrated? Are there, like, did it bring the community closer together? Because through this, like, if we imagine all of ourselves, like the souls choose to be incarnated on this earth to experience something. And some souls choose to be incarnated to also help others understand something. Because on the soul level, we already know. So these children might have volunteered themselves to teach the other people in their soul family, in their soul contracts, something really important. And that lesson you might have to figure out for yourself. But you understand what I'm saying, right? Like, you didn't bring on something negative. The whole energy of the town might have been headed in a negative direction. And so an intervention happened in form of these accidents to help the whole collective change into a more favorable direction. Because in the end, we are all one and we are all here from each other. Our human perspective often refuses to see that, but that doesn't make it less true. And so while it is painful to see a young person go so early and be in an accident, as somebody who is part of that collective experience, we can choose to see what we can learn from that in order to create a better experience for all. Does that make sense? And if there are no other questions for now, good. Are there any other questions? Patricia says, the collective influences me so much. This is something that I've been thinking about and feeling into a lot too, because I am someone as well who, like, the ways that I'm wired, I feel everything outside of me before I feel what is inside of me. In the wheel of colors, we have the color red, and depending on where it appears on your wheel, you're leaning towards one or the other side. If the color red appears in the beginning of your wheel, you're often very, like, you have a very good understanding of self and you feel yourself more. If red appears towards the end of your wheel, you have a lot more of a collective sense and you feel the collective a lot stronger than you feel yourself. In the end, both sides need to balance this energy. We see this currently in the world. The red energy is like strong in some people who push forward without regarding the feelings and the needs of others. So, and they can only be doing that because they have not understand the cosmic laws, because they have not understood that if they're hurting other people, they're also hurting themselves. The same way, us people who tend to feel the collective stronger than themselves, we are also hurt. Like, if we're hurting ourselves, if we're not respecting ourselves enough, then we're also hurting the collective because we're not being safe for ourselves. And so we each need to come into a balance and meet in the middle and find a healthy way of protecting our own needs and stepping up for them, while also doing that in a way that is beneficial to all within the collective and is like making space for everyone to be at their best and to move at their space. And the image that I used for myself in the past years or so, like, is to move from being a thermometer to becoming a thermostat. Because my natural setting is being a thermometer. I enter a space, I feel about everything that is going on. And that can be a trauma response as well. That can be like natural wiring, and it can be a combination of both. But the thermostat actually sets the room, the temperature for the room. And so moving from a thermometer to actually finding the clarity within me of who I want to be, how I want to be, and practicing that in every moment and every situation that I get into. And then bringing, like, focusing myself in love, in peace, in abundance, in everything that I wish for: wisdom, prosperity, radiant love, peace, and health. And bringing that with me everywhere I go. And to always remember that before I go into a situation, and to learn to set the temperature of the room. I think it's like, because again, it's a story we tell ourselves. I feel the collective more than I feel myself. I know that I do, but is that what I want to keep? Or is that something that I want to change? Will I be able to better be of service if I change that? For me, that answer is yes. So I'm working on changing that to the best of my abilities with love and patience. Okay, I thank you for being here and wish you all a wonderful day.